Hello, students. Welcome back. Today we talk about organizational strategy. This is the second lesson of our project management series. Strategy is fundamentally deciding how the organization will compete in the marketplace. Organizations use projects to convert strategy into new products, new services, and process that need to help them to achieve a success. Aligning projects with the strategic goals of the organization is crucial for project success. Today's economic climate is dented by rapid changes in technology, global competition, and financial uncertainty. These conditions make a strategy of a project management alignment even more essential for success. Every major project, especially very grand projects, need to have a strong linkage to the strategic plan. Ensuring a strong link between the strategic plan and projects is a difficult task that demands constant attention from top and middle management. So we are in the second box in the recommended core textbook. We have a couple of learning outcomes for this lesson. We will start from explaining why it is important for project managers to understand their organization's strategy. And we moved into identifying the significant role projects contribute to the strategic direction of the organization and understand the need for a project priority system, as well as distinguishing among three kinds of projects. We continue to explore how project managers can apply financial and non-financial criteria to evaluate project proposals effectively. Finally, we summarize the importance of using a balanced approach to project assessment and encourage questions and comments on how to apply this criteria in practice. So this page lists the chapter outline in the textbook, similar to the learning outcomes we just listed earlier. So I have one first question for you. Why do you think project managers need to understand strategy? Project manager and project management historically has been preoccupied solely with planning and execution of projects. Strategy was considered to be under the purview of senior management. However, now this is becoming very outdated. It's old school thinking. New school thinking recognizes that project management is that epoch of strategy and operations. So, two main reasons project managers need to understand their organization's mission and strategies. The first reason is so they can make appropriate decisions and adjustments. For example, how a project manager would respond to a suggestion to modify the design of a product to enhance performance will vary depending upon whether his company strives to be a product leader through innovation or to achieve operational excellency through low-cost solutions. Similarly, how a project manager would respond to delays may vary depending upon strategic concerns. A project manager will authorize over time if her firm places a premium on getting to the market first. And second reason project managers need to understand their organization's strategy is so they can be effective project advocates. Project managers have to be able to demonstrate to senior management how their project contributes to their organizational success and mission. Protection and continued support from top management being aligned with corporate objectives are vital. Project managers also need to be able to explain to team members and other stakeholders why certain project objectives and priorities are critical. So this is essential for getting buy-in on contentious trade-off decisions. For these reasons, project manager will find it valuable to have a keen understanding of strategic management and project selection processes, which are discussed in the next few slides. Here we have an example. This comes from J.P. Discamps. He observed that project managers who do not understand the role their project plays in accomplishing the strategy of their organization tend to make the following mistakes. For example, focusing on problems or solutions that have low priority strategically, or focusing on the immediate customers rather than the whole marketplace and the entire supply chain. Sometimes they can overemphasizing technology as an end in and of itself, result in projects that wander off pursuing exotic technology that does not fit the strategy or customer's need that the organization focuses on, or trying to solve every customer's issue with a product or service rather than focusing on the 20% with 80% of the value, or engaging in a never-ending search for perfection that no one except the project team really cares about. Strategic management is the process of assessing what we are and deciding and implementing what we intend to be and how we're going to get there. Strategy describes how an organization intends to compete with the resource available in the existing and perceived future environment. So using these ideas, strategic management can be defined as the process of assessing what we are and deciding and implementing what we intended to be and how we can get there. And also, it requires strong links among missions, goals, objectives, strategies, and implementation within the organization. There are two major dimensions of strategic management, which are corresponding to changes in the external environment and allocating scarce resources of the firm to improve its competitive position. The first one is response to changes in the external environment and allocate the firm's scarce resource. And the second one is internal responses to new action programs aimed at enhancing the competitive position of the firm. The components of a strategic management are closely connected and are all directed toward the future success of the business. Strategic management requires strong links among all the missions, goals, objectives, purposes, strategy, and implementation and operation within the organization. The missions give the general purposes of the organization. Goals give global targets within the mission. Objectives give specific targets to goals, and objectives give rise to formulation of strategies to reach objectives. And finally, strategies require actions and tasks to be implemented. In most cases, the action to be taken represent projects. The typical sequence of activities of the strategic management process is outlined here. Descriptions are shown in these 4 steps. For example, review and define the organizational mission. These mission statements identified here is very vital. It can help to frame the scope of the business operation in terms of its product and service. And second step would be analyze and formulate strategies. It will help to answer the question of what needs to be done to reach objectives. Strategy formulation includes determining and evaluating alternatives that support the organization's objectives and selecting the best alternatives. Step 3, setting objectives to achieve strategies. Objectives could be translated into strategies that are very specific and concrete, as well as measurable. We can use the SMART framework to think of strategies, objectives. They answer in determining where a firm is headed and when it's going to get there. And final step is implementing strategies through different projects. So implementation answer the question is how strategies will be realized given available resources. This figure shows a schematic of the strategic management process and major activities required. The components of a strategic management are closely connected, as we mentioned earlier, and all are directed toward the future success of the organization. Strategic management requires strong links among few tasks, including missions, goals, objectives, strategy, and implementation. And this figure illustrates how by connecting them together and undertaking different perspectives, they formulate a systematic framework for project to be successful. Characteristics of objectives including SMART. S means specific, M means measurable, A assignable, R realistic, T time related. So for setting up a good operational objective, this SMART framework could always be considered. Here we have got an example referring to the SWOT analysis that can be quite smart using Starbucks as the case study. So SWOT refers to strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. This analysis for Starbucks details key aspects to consider for strategic planning. Strengths boost well-located shops with Starbucks chain operations with a diverse product portfolio. The key strengths of this coffee shop include strong brand image, loyalty customers, in-house amenities, socializing crowds, and very customer-friendly ecosystem through social media and feedback channels. The weakness of Starbucks, it faces quite a lot as well, including a lack of adaptation to local culture and uniformity across stores, which may detract from local customers' engagement in different countries. Opportunities are many as well. There are significant growth opportunities in this coffee chain in leveraging societal trends favoring health, environmental consciousness. This could guide menu expansions or sustainability practices. External challenges referring to threats include demographic shifts like an aging population and economic and social instability. Additionally, local disinterest in the coffee shop model possesses a significant barrier to acceptance and also its localization process. Overall, this analysis helps Starbucks identify strategic directions and very specific and very comprehensive for any potential areas for improvement to enhance its market position, brand recognition, and address some local consumer preference effectively. This is another framework that can be used to understand the strategic position of a Starbucks. It is a pastoral analysis for the coffee shop. It breaks down various external factors that impact coffee business. For example, politically, it shows tax policies and employment laws in different countries can affect Starbucks operation and sales. Government laws that are favorable can also provide a conducive employment for business. Economically, some of the economic conditions of developing countries can be promising, and the rising cost of raw materials and labor impact can impact Starbucks negatively. These elements can pose different opportunities and threats to the cost structure, adaptation, and profitability of the business. Social culturally, changes in consumer lifestyles and preferences, including the increasing preference for mobile purchasing, influence how Starbucks market and sell its products. The high cost of items compared to alternatives also affects consumer choice. Technologically, many advancements in technology can facilitate smoother operation from coffee farming to final product delivery to the attraction of loyal customers, which can enhance efficiency and customer experience. Ecologically, Starbucks is affected by ecological factors like climate change, fossil fuel reduction in the usage, which can disrupt the supply of coffee due to disease, pests, or natural disasters. The company can also leverage ecological concerns by focusing on recyclable packaging into enhancing its brand image as environmental responsible actions. And finally, legally, compliance with the local laws, safety regulations, and international trade laws are crucial. Licensing and regulations can either hinder or promote expansions, depending on how effectively Starbucks navigate through these legal landscapes. So this analysis can be very smart, very specific, and emphasizes some external influences and strengths and weakness of this brand. Starbucks, with a comprehensive overview of the external environment, guiding the company to produce strategic decisions to enhance operational efficiency and resiliency and competitiveness. The need for a project priority system. Implementation of projects without a strong priority system linked to strategy creates problems. Like we mentioned earlier in some of the slides, that if top managers or middle managers do not pay attention to strategic decisions, then they tend to make some big mistakes. So three of the most obvious problems are discussed here. A project portfolio system can go a long way to reduce or even eliminate the impact of these problems. So the problem one, the implementation gap, is the lack of understanding and concerns of organization strategy among top and middle level managers. Problem two, organization politics. It can happen in many different organizations. Project selection may be based not so much on facts and the date, and some reasoning, but as persuasive and the power of people advocating these projects. The term secret call is often used to denote a project that a powerful, high-profile, high-ranking official is advocating. And problem three, resource conflicts and multitasking. A multi-project environment creates problems of project interdependency and the need to share resources. Resource sharing leads to multitasking, involves starting and stopping work on one task, to go and work on another project, then returning to the work on the original ones. That can cause some of the problems. So project priority system can help reduce the conflict and making the multitasking arrangement more logical and with good prioritizing facilities. The benefit of project portfolio management are listed here. A project portfolio system is emphasizes on selection criteria, which is where the power of the portfolio system is established. 40 points out, portfolio management asks what is strategic to our organization. Portfolio management provides information that allows people to make better business decisions. And also, since projects clamoring for funding and resources, and people usually outnumber available resources, it's important to follow a logic and defined process for selecting the projects to implement. Design of a project portfolio system should include the classification of a project, selection criteria, depending upon classification, sources of proposals, evaluating the proposals, and managing the portfolio of the project. Many organizations find that they have three different kinds of projects in their portfolio. So project classification can have 3 types. Compliance and emergency is one, which means must-do projects. Operational one and strategic projects, as shown in this figure. Compliance projects are typically those needed to meet regular conditions required to operate in a region, hence they are called must-do projects. Emergency projects, such as rebuilding a soybean factory destroyed by fire, meet the must-do criteria. Total quality management projects are examples of operational projects. Finally, strategic projects are those that directly support the organization's long-term mission. They frequently are directed toward increasing revenues or market shares. Examples of strategic projects are new products development, research and development, and new location choices, and so on. For good, complete discussion on this, you can look into the textbook that has quite a lot of information and examples on these 3 types of projects. The phase gate model is a technique that is used to guide a project from conception to launch. It requires a review of each project stage before moving on to the next. In the phase gate review process, specific criteria must be met to determine the success of a phase and the ongoing viability of a project. So it can be used in priority management and project management. Many questions can be asked at different gates in order to make sure the project is progressing soundly and logically, and if there are any issues or problems occurring, the managers could take instant action and help solve the problem very quickly. This is a phase gate process example which provides a structured roadmap that guides project from ideas to product launch. Again, it has 6 gates, and which each gate there are different phases, including idea general creation to proposal to screening, and finally to implementing and closure. As early as the 1940s, complex engineering and industrial projects used a phased approach to development. So the method occurred during those period of time when many companies are having very complex projects. The method front-loaded much of the planning work and took a step-by-step approach to project development. In 1958, the American Association of Cost Engineers, called AACE International, developed a cost estimation classification to match the estimating process with phased development. During the space race in the 1960s, NASA used a phased review process, so each step could be reviewed in sequence. Today, phase gate built on the strength of these processes and experiment. It is used widely in new products from hardware, software, and IT to processes and services. Phase gate method is not limited to a step-by-step development and review process. Engineering, design, marketing, project management, operation management, and so on can all using this method work concurrently rather than relying on a handful from department to department. We have some review questions that you can use in the classroom with students to think about. They can use 5 minutes with different groups to discuss those review questions in the learning process. Also, there are many criteria for selecting projects. There are some are listed here that are I'm going to introduce it a little bit briefly. So some are financial criteria, some are non-financial criteria, or a mixture of both. These 3 are widely used. For financial criteria, financial models for most managers are the preferred method here to use. One is called the payback method, one is called net present value model. These models are appropriate when there's a high level of confidence associated with estimates of future cash flows, and they can be very easy quantifiable using financial terms. Two models is presented here. On the other hand, non-financial models, for example, project of strategic importance to the firm should be considered. The 60s and 70s saw many companies become overextended by diversifying too much. Now the prevailing thinking is the long-term survival is dependent upon developing and maintaining core competencies. Companies have to be disciplined in saying no to potentially profitable projects that are outside the realm of their core mission. So non-financial criteria sometimes could be considered and highly involved in decision making. This requires other criteria be considered beyond direct financial returns. For example, a firm may support projects that do not have a high profit margin for other strategic reasons, including to capture larger market share or to stay competitive in the market, regardless short-term profitability, to make it difficult for competitors to enter the market, and also to develop an enabler product, which by its introduction will increase sales in more profitable products, or to develop a core technology that will be used in next generation products, and so on. So finally, two multi-criteria selection models. Since no single criteria can reflect strategic significance, portfolio management requires a multi-criteria screening method. So two models, the checklist and multi-weighted scoring methods, are described here, and they can be used collectively or interchangeably. So these models can be used together as a screening criteria, helping project to gaining weight in its progress, and also identify the weighting score of these possible projects. Relatively speaking, projects with higher weighted scores are considered better than those who are lower scored. Here is an example of how to use the financial criteria, the payback model. So the payback model measures the time it will take to recover the project investment. Shorter paybacks are more desirable. Payback is the simplest and most widely used method, actually. It emphasizes cash flows, which is a key factor in business. Some managers use the payback model to eliminate usually risky projects. For example, some took a very long time to have the investment returned. The major limitation of payback are that it ignores the time value of money, so it doesn't really use the NPV method or taking into consideration of NPV and assuming cash flows for the investment period, and does not consider profitability. And payback period can really change as well. Sometimes payback has achieved, but then further cost incurs. Then payback can be further extended after pay have been completed. The payback formula is payback period with years with estimated project cost divided by annual savings, which can be used as the simple way to calculate payback period. This one is just an illustration with two companies, Project A and Project B, using this payback period and evaluate their investment efficiency using the payback period formula. The approach can really help to look into the feasibility of different projects very quickly, or the financial viability of different projects, and can be doing comparison between different projects based on how quickly investments can be recovered and their future possibility of gaining profits, which is very crucial and very straightforward for effective capital allocation decisions. Here is the second financial criteria, which is called NPV. For most managers, financial criteria are the preferred method to evaluate because they're very quick and easy. These models are appropriate when there is a high level of confidence with those profitability and estimate in financial terms, as well as understanding of the cash flows. NPV model uses management's minimum desired rate of return using discount rate, for example, 12% or 20%, to compute the present value of all net cash inflows in the result. If the result is positive, after taking out the total employee investment, it's eligible for further consideration with the project. However, if the total value using this formula is negative, then the project, if it's a straightforward decision, could be rejected, or if any other means that could help to validate the ongoing of this project, then they have to be evaluated with caution. The higher positive NPVs, the better, the more desirable. This is another example with NPV usage. Two projects, again with project A and project B, that can use NPV, which taking into account the time value of money in relation to the payback methods. So could be considered more realistic, be more closer to what is going to be really happening in the future. That can be widely used by quite a lot of managers using NPV. However, in real life, many managers using multi-criteria selection model. So basically, they use a list of questions to review potential projects and determine their acceptance or rejections, and combine different models and criteria, both financial and non-financial, quantitative or qualitative criteria, which can allow them for very precise and very technical comparison and really identify the pros and cons and prioritizing different projects and make very precise and more accurate decision. Both models offer methods to evaluate projects. Multi-weighted scoring models provide a more detailed and comparative analysis, which can be crucial for strategic decision making that can be very complex, and decisions couldn't offered to be flawed or false. So very careful evaluation using different techniques are essential for project selection criteria. Here is a checklist models that when assessing projects, those questions can be asked in different selection process. For example, what are the specific organizational strategy does this project align with? And what business problems that project could solve? And also evaluate certain risks. What is the impact of not doing the project, or how risky it is to implement this project? Here, reading material that illustrates a company as a real case study. This case study focusing on Gary Cody, the Chief Information Officer of Frontier Airlines, who managed the IT projects during the airline's financial troubles and the economic recessions in 2008 and 2009. This person, Gary Cody, who was appointed the CIO of Frontier Airlines in 2007, before the financial crisis, the airline filed for bankruptcy protection under Chapter 11 nearly a year later, promoting a re-evaluation of its IT project management strategies. Facing the dilemma of having too many projects and insufficient funds, Cody implemented a strategy to drastically reduce the number of ongoing projects. From several hundreds of projects, he managed to pare the list down to less than 30 projects, prioritizing the key ones and logically allocate scarce resources. There are many criteria he used. The reduction involved setting stringent criteria for each project could continue. Projects had to align closely with the core business objective, ensuring flight safety, generating proper revenues, and reducing cost, and enhance the brand image and customer service, and so on. There is also a crisis management Cody emphasizes, in the process. He suggests that crisis management involves making bold decisions and focusing on high-value projects that align well with available resources and fundamental business goals. So that's the case study. This page displays a multi-weighted scoring method that can be used to screening the project feasibility. The matrix lists various criteria used to assess each project, such as stay within core competence, strategic fit, urgency, improve production, and so on. Each criteria can go a numerical number to reflect the weight of those different criteria, and the total weight could be summed up to address the complexity of many projects going ahead all together or in parallel. This matrix is a quite practical tool and quite technical as well, enabling decision makers to numerically or more objectively evaluate the scores of different projects. It helps ensure that resources are soundly allocated to important projects, help the key projects to deliver good outcomes in order to sustain the strategic goals of the organization. Project classification applying those models. Applying a selection model for project within and focusing particularly on the use of weighting score models. So by classifying projects, it's very crucial to determine if a project aligns with the organizational goal, and also if it help to reduce some wasteful projects or not, as well as help to identify project goals that can be communicated using the selection criteria. They help project manager understand how their project was selected and how their project contributes to the organizational success in comparison to other non-selective projects. And also within the organization, resources and the solicitation of project proposal. Proposal can originate from within the organization or may be solicited externally through RFP requests for proposals from contractors or vendors. This allows the organization to gather a diverse range of project ideas and solutions that can potentially meet their needs. And then after that, ranking of the proposals and selection of projects need to be go ahead through the rigorous selection criteria. And then next one would be the decision making of those proposals, accepting or rejecting them based on specific criteria established within the organization. And finally, prioritizing some of the projects that are accepted, and then ensuring that most critical projects can go ahead. Important ones can go ahead. This process highlights the structured approach to project selection and prioritization, ensuring the project undertaken are well suited to advance the objective of the organization. Here is an example of an automatic vehicle tracking public transport project with different prioritizing and proposal evaluation approaches in the questionnaire. So including, for example, project proposal information, project classification, business problem addressed, alignment with organizational strategy, major deliverables, impact if this project is not implemented, and some risk assessment, success metrics, resource availability, project cost, project duration, oversight action, and so on. This proposal form is a structured to outline and some very essential elements and help a decision maker to evaluate the project and ensuring they can be very important projects that need to be implemented and also feasible, and they can be contributing to organizational success. This form is another project evaluation, which is a risk analysis form. This is a company called Wind Farm. This figure evaluates the large companies and then check it prioritizing and selection criteria in new projects. The form distinguish between must and want projects. If a project does not meet designed must-do objectives, then it is not considered and removed from the consideration. And if the organization objectives have been ranked and weighted by their relative importance, and for example, it can improve external customer service, then it carries certain weight in numerical forms in comparison to other projects, then that project could be considered to be going ahead. Culling through so many proposals to identify those that add the most valuable requires a structured process. This figure shows a flowchart of a screening process, beginning with the creation of an idea of a project until the final project initiated and being implemented. So it includes evaluation, decision point, development and implementation plan, as well as project initiation. So this is a very structured layout as well, help to look into different phases of the project screening process and also optimize the use of organizational resource in order to check if projects meeting all those criteria or not. This image showcases a priority screening analysis used in project management to assess and prioritize different projects as well. Some are must projects, some are want projects with different numbers and criteria. So managing the portfolio system. Managing the portfolios takes the selection system one step higher in the merit of a particular project that assessed. So it's not a project being managed, it's a range of projects. At the same time, it involves monitoring and adjusting in parallel different projects altogether. This requires very consistent and constant efforts along the way of the project's implementation stage. The priority system can be managed by a small group of key employees in a smaller organization or in a large organization managed by the project managers or the management team. Governance team has got huge responsibility in managing a portfolio, including not only middle management group, but also senior management, including tasks like publishing the priority of every project, ensuring they can oversee all the progresses of different projects and their balanced allocation and use of resources, and also open and free of power politics, and evaluate along the way constantly the progress and the status of those projects, and constantly scan the external environment to determine if organization focus and all selection criteria need to be changed. A major responsibility of the project team is to balance project by type, risk, and the resources. This requires a total organization perspective. Therefore, a proposed project that ranks high on most criteria may not be selected because the organization portfolio already includes too many projects with the same characteristics, such as project risk level, use of key resources, cost, non-revenue producing, long duration, and so on. Organizations need to evaluate each new project in terms of what it adds to the project mix. Short-term needs need to be balanced with long-term potentials. So the types of resources are divided into bread and butter, pearls, oysters, and white elephant. And there are along two axes. One is commercial potential between net present value as well, between low and high, and the other one is technical feasibility between low and high as well. So the technical feasibility high would be desirable, and net present value high would also be desirable. So bread and butter and the pearl are something quite interested to decision makers in the selection of projects. So that's it for the main this topic and content. Here are some key terms that involved in today's teaching, and as well as some review questions students can look at and can consider any of them as homework. There is also a quiz that students could do. Okay, I also attached some links that and videos that students can look at, and also as references as well. Students are highly encouraged to read the chapter related in the textbook. So for this chapter, Apple's strategy is quite interesting. Students can read this and come back for discussion. There is also a survival simulation game that students could do in the classroom. They can do this in the tutorial time. Okay, this is a selection of criteria that can be used in group decision making. Finally, a reading list for the student and possible formative assessment and video and reading recommendations for students to conduct their independent studies. That's it for today. Thank you for your listening. I look forward to seeing you next time. And don't forget to click the subscription button and looking forward to seeing you soon.